welcome, Shanaz. It's so great to have you back again after 2 weeks. There's been some long weekend for some, and I must admit, I turned it into a very long weekend as well, and I got some rest. So, feeling fairly energized to some extent, and feeling engaged and enjoying a lot more of what I'm doing. So rest is good. So in any case, um, to our listeners, welcome to our podcast. And today I'm going to introduce a topic, and there will be several chapters to this topic. But the main topic is going to be called Business Nuggets from a Novice Biker. So this afternoon, we're going to start with chapter 1, and the title is In the Beginning. So here's the background to chapter 1. In 2006, I was in my first year of self-employment. And I've had several coaching sessions between Benoni, Pretoria, and Roodepoort. And for those of you who live in Gauteng, you understand it's quite a distance to be traversing up and down, especially if you're looking at attending single sessions, one in Roodepoort, the next one in Benoni, and so forth. Then in 2006, I tell you what, traffic was really awful. And I mean, we used to sit in traffic jams for about 2 hours on end, so it was very difficult to maximize the number of meetings I could have in a day. And I managed to have at the very best, at the very most, 3 meetings in a day, and that was the best I could do. But what happened was, never mind my best planning and scheduling, I found that my values were under attack. What happened with the traffic jam? So ordinarily with the traffic, about 2 hours in between meetings, but with traffic jams, found that even the 2 hours did not prove to be enough. And so I started arriving at my sessions very, very late and highly irate and frustrated. Now, as a business coach, that's not the state in which you want to arrive at any particular session, because what you need to portray is calm serenity, because this is part and parcel of the environment you need to create for your client. We talk many times about creating a safe space, but also a safe space that's in a peaceful state. So I had to work hard at that. And so I found, therefore, my values of integrity and professionalism were completely under attack. I felt that to such an extent it was robbing me of my joy of zipping to clients and totally enjoying it and understanding that it was a calling, and suddenly the absolute experiences was sort of diluted a little bit. So I felt I finally reached a moment of choice. So I need to kind of do some research. So in many ways, why my topic is really called Business Nuggets is, when we want to change something fundamentally in our lives, whether we want to start a business, whether we want to change our the direction of our careers, whether we want to do anything new, you make the decision, and if you want to make an informed decision, research is good. So in my case, that's what I did. I thought, well, I'm no longer going to compromise my values, of course. And this was my moment that I needed to choose. So the first filter was, well, how can I conduct myself with integrity? And so reviewed what were the options to ensure punctuality. And so I'll take you through some of those. I considered living more centrally, meaning moving to some place closer to Midrand and Sandton. Sandton particularly felt that was really central. But as we did the research as a family, we just found that it just proved too expensive with schooling, etc. Because both my kids at that stage were still in primary school. And as somebody who's just started my business in the first year, cash flow was definitely king, and that governed very much my choices and decisions I were going to make. And what I felt was also that if I was not going to move, I then had to make a choice, is have a maximum of only 2 sessions per day. Which meant I would have a session in the morning sometime, and then sometime mid-afternoon, and that would guarantee that I would arrive on time and at peace with the kind of serenity that I enjoyed. But that particular decision would have impacted on my cash flow, my business cash flow. So obviously, the more sessions I could book in a day, the greater my cash flow. So it's quite simple. Fee per session. More sessions, more fees. Then the other option, and this is what I was pursuing, was use centrally located coffee shops as a base and operate as a mobile office. Now, this is what I really did. So you sit in a coffee shop. So I'd leave early in the morning and come back, say, after traffic has sort of improved after 7 o'clock, and literally meet somewhere as a compromise place in a coffee shop where I can have multiple sessions. But what I found was that it also influenced my cash flow constraints, because you can't just sit in a coffee shop and think you're going to drink water the whole time. Yeah, you got to show, that you are there to spend some money. And I found I needed to have a budget for sometimes lunch, definitely coffee, to keep going and to kind of pay for my way, even though sitting in a coffee shop was just added to the ambiance for me, and it really helped with riveting conversations. And so, but my expenses now had to include having breakfast, coffee, and lunch, and so on. And at that stage, which is quite funny, as I prepared this, I had to consider virtual work, meaning rather than being in the traffic, rather do my sessions online. Guess what happened? I had such a visceral reaction, emotional reaction. I shuddered at the thought, because at the time I prized having face-to-face sessions, and I felt I was most able and most effective when I did face-to-face sessions, and I felt that is no option. The irony of it all. Because COVID taught me a lesson. But this was, remember, 2006. So, what else? As I went through all these different options, a good coaching question is, what else? After you've considered everything else, you always ask yourself, okay, so what else? So I ask myself that question is, what else? So one day, while I was stuck in traffic and letting my mind just wander and drift, and it's quite amazing how these things work, I was watching the motorbikers just do lane splitting, meaning they were traveling in between the cars while we were not even moving at all. The bikers had no problem being in motion, no problem making progress, no problem making sure they're getting to their destination. And it was at that moment when I had this tremendous brainwave. If this sounds corny to you, I'm just relaying exactly what happened. In fact, there were about 3 bikers who were doing this, and I was just watching. The 4th one actually touched my rearview mirror and caught my attention, and that sort of sparked that aha moment for me. I need to get a motorbike. So, having arrived at my decision, when I got to the crossroads called a moment of choice, I decided, okay, now my research can be completely focused. Now it's not just broadly thinking through all of this. I now knew what the solution lay. But in finding the solution, which particular motorbike was going to serve my needs? So, the first one is I wanted to commute as safely as possible. Interesting. I'm taking you through all of this, but this is literally the things that I needed to consider. I wanted to be visible in traffic. I wanted the bike to be flexible enough to warrant a bit of off-roading. And what I mean by that is not doing the breakfast run and the mine dump somewhere. No, if the traffic is so bad that I have to actually get off on the dirt track on the side, if there's no shoulder on the road, then I actually navigate through bumpiness, maybe even a pothole or two. Then it needs to be able to handle all of this. I needed to find out about safety clothing. What were the minimum requirements? I had to think through the weather, for heat and cold and rain and, mind you, hail. What kind of road conditions must this bike be able to handle? And what do I want to protect the most, which is quite interesting. You see, as a knowledge worker, I often say anything else can fail, but my mind, my ability to listen, my ability to process, my ability to provide the soundboarding experience for my clients, that was like absolutely the biggest priority. So I decided that I'm going to spend whatever budget I have the most on the best helmet that I could find, that the marketplace could offer. So I would splurge on that, which informed my decision. And then lastly is in the mobility, obviously, I needed to still carry my laptop and so on. I had to have a backpack, and this thing needed to be water resistant. And so these were the things that I needed to consider as far as commuting as safely as possible. And for me, once again, is I wanted to be punctual despite traffic conditions, meaning I want to maintain a minimum speed of 80 kilometers per hour. Because you know what occurred? What occurred to me while sitting in traffic was that irrespective of the car that you drove, whether it was a Taz or whether it was a Ferrari, when you're in a traffic jam, everybody travels at the same speed, irrespective of the potential that you have. So that's why I came up with, if I can travel at 80 k's an hour, despite the traffic congestion, I will be absolutely on time every time. So I needn't look for a speedster. So that governed my decision. I didn't need to look for anything that could travel potentially at 250 kilometers to 300 kilometers an hour, because in traffic, it slows you down. It cuts you down to size. It levels the playing field. Amongst four-wheelers, even amongst two-wheelers, even when you lane split. And then, I spoke to a couple of people. What do they think? People that were knowledgeable, opinions that I really valued and respected. And I'll never forget, one of my friends, we were actually at home sale, said to me, listen, as far as a motorbike is concerned, especially for somebody as novice as I am, he said, buy it new. So that informed, therefore, my decision, and therefore the budget that I need to set. The other thing that I needed to consider was I needed a learner's license for a motorbike. Now, for some of you, at that stage, in 2006, I have been driving for 42 years, and my license as long as that. And before then, 44 years ago, I did my learners while I was still at school. So I haven't done a learners for such a long time. Now I had to redo a learner's license to be able to ride a bike. And then the last thing was I needed to show a cost saving on my monthly fuel bill. And that would need to be the payback. And also, it wasn't just the cost saving on the fuel bill, it was also cost saving on the coffee bill. Mind you, I didn't have to go and sit in a coffee shop. I could actually zoom up and down and come back to my home office and then go back to a client and still save time and still save my expenses. And so finally, I made a decision and I found the perfect bike for me. Not the perfect bike ever, but I found the perfect bike for me. And it's like literally the same like in relationships. You find a perfect partner for you. They might not be perfect for anybody else, but this was my perfect bike. I found a Kawasaki bike which was red and it was a 650cc. It was a dual bike, both on and off the road. I say was, it still is. I still have it after all this time. And this bike would allow me to sit on it, but my head would project above the car roofs, the passenger car roofs. So visibility, fabulous. Visibility to the motorist, very good. And so at that time, I don't even know if you were aware, in South Africa, they had this Think Bike campaign. The car stickers had this. Is like, yeah, consider that when you're on the road, there are bikers on the road. And mostly they appear out of your blind spot suddenly, so be aware of them. And this would aid that campaign, I felt, and it was also great for my own visibility because I could see beyond the car roofs. So this was very much the choices I made from the research that I conducted. Now I was now ready and I knew exactly what was required from a bike perspective and a clothes perspective and all these kinds, and I was very excited. I found my solution. I wanted to implement this solution. However, I don't know if you are aware that family and friends are not always excited when you want to purchase a bike. They're worried about all kinds of things, your safety, your death, like people say a bike is a death on wheels, especially in traffic, etc., etc., etc. So I had to gain the approval of my family, and I took that very seriously. And the parallel here is when you come up with great ideas, whether it's in your job at work, or whether it is in your own business, or whether it's just generally in an organization, and you want to sell an idea, I had to sell this solution. It ticked all the boxes, but I had to sell the solution. And so I had to present the pros and the cons of purchasing the motorbike. And eventually I came up with the net benefits. Number one, it was more time at home. And for my family at that time, because both my kids were at primary school, I could be at home and attend the extracurricular activities. I could be home in time for evening events. I could be at home in the afternoon and both my kids did music and swimming. I could be available there. So that was what I sold as one of the benefits. I sold the fuel saving benefit, which will obviously affect the profitability of my coaching business. And therefore, what does it happen? More food on the table and maybe a little bit extra. Less entertainment expenses, because that's where these things go. Reduce motor vehicle expenses, because a bike is it's less expensive to maintain. And then the big bonus is increased sales revenue, because I could do more appointments in a day, up to 5 in a day if I wanted to. And therefore, with the better profit margins at that stage, we were very much into wanting to renovate our home, and suddenly this would unlock more money for home reservations. And they heard me out, and there were 2 conditions. One is I needed to get insurance. If anything happens to me, the family's taken care of. I agreed. I said, fine, agreed. It was executed, it was done. And then we also need to take out income protection as well. Same. Those were the only two conditions. Honored it, got it all done. And then, as a bottom line, approval was granted. Then only I embarked on obtaining a learner's license, and I then placed an order. And by the way, interestingly enough, then I wanted to go around and I wanted to purchase this motor vehicle, and I couldn't find one. I had to place an order for it and wait for the delivery. It was quite amazing that these bikes are actually quite popular then in 2005, 2006. So I placed the order for a bike and I bought the safety equipment, and took ownership of my bike on January 2007. And then my journey began, and that I will deal with in chapter 2. So that concludes chapter 1 of Business Nuggets from a Novice Biker. All right, I'm gonna do this by chapter. So Shanaz, I am done. Any thoughts?
Um, yeah, I was like, I didn't. It made me think about bikes. No, no, I. Sorry, that was just teasing. I think that no, I think that that idea of methodically, you really planned before you started, and I think when I think you planned it so well, and I really like that the thought that went into it, even like before, even though it was like purchase of a bike, and one would consider that to be I mean, not a large thing, but I think the approval of your family, and I felt that you got all your ducks in a row, even the approval from the family. And it made me realize that often when I have spoken to people who are thinking of starting their own business, is that they don't necessarily go into all of that detail. Um, and such a thorough preparation. So I found that the little going into the little detail of your plan was I found that very valuable. Just in yeah, all the things that you crossed, and it actually made me think now also, while I'm at it, it made me think that sometimes we think it's impossible, but actually, when you plan it that well, then it sounds very doable. And I think that that's how it came across. And we've been talking this year about, taking things in small portions, and not feeling overwhelmed by what we take on. So I found that valuable.
Very, very insightful. So obviously, and it's great that you're picking up all the main points. Um, Now, when I started with that, I had to kind of come up with the main reason of why I wanted to pursue these alternatives. What was the main reason, the purpose for arriving at the what I'm calling the crossroads of my moment of choice? Either do the same thing as I've always done, or I change something fundamentally. Either go short left or short right in terms of just thinking about it. But to really understand the purpose behind what it is you want to do next. When you want to start a business, as you see the opportunity, is it only about the opportunity in isolation, and once it's done, you go back to what you were doing? But is this something that you fundamentally want to change, that is more permanent? It's going to be with you over a much longer term. So there's a change in culture. There's definitely then the buy-in of those around you. I mean, interestingly enough, I'm talking about a motorbike. But by the same token is that if you want to start a business, you need the buy-in of family and friends, because somehow they have the same hesitation in certain cases, that you're taking a huge risk. They want you to succeed, but they kind of hang back. Are you thinking this one through? And and the message is, well, use your social circle, use your community, who will encourage you to take a leap, but want to know that you followed some sort of a rational process. There is a strong purpose behind what it is you want to do, and you've done, secondly, your research. And once you've done your research, then the contracting part happens. And the contracting part is it covers a spectrum. First and foremost, you need the buy-in from your support group, your social support, basically your family and your friends. But then, if you're going into partnership, talking to the types of people that might be your clients, you need to go and talk to them. That's part of your contracting. You need to talk to suppliers. Um, you need to understand the logistics of receiving supply. It's like, when you're an entrepreneur, it's always, don't worry about it. There's nothing more easy than what you consider easy peasy, you would say. Money is literally going to roll in. And sometimes you're getting, when you start out, when you've got the right and you seize the opportunity, you find that it's actually not that difficult, especially in the beginning. It's like a like anything that's novel. It's not that difficult to get a contract, to get a sale. But what you discover very quickly, you might be able to invoice for a sale and you deliver, whether it's goods, whether it's services, to get your money in time from the particular people that buy from you. So contracting is also very important. So research, contracting, speak to all the types of people, but remember, within the foundation of what you do is a very powerful why. Now, for me, it was based on having a values disconnect or dissonance. I was starting to lose my joy and my presence. And basically, what are we on about, Shanaz and I, week in and week out? We're talking about being fully engaged and present in everything that you do. And you are when you're enjoying what you're doing. You're enjoying the journey. And a powerful why sits very much in that foundation. And we have dealt with purpose and understanding your purpose in whatever you do. You can just go into playbacks that we have on Clubhouse itself, or you can just go listen to the videos and the podcast that we uploaded onto the YouTube channel, in the Mufasa Coaching Practice YouTube channel. So, Shanaz, any other concluding tidbits from you? I mean, if somebody listening to us, listening to the podcast later on, is, what would you encourage them to take from this and to actually implement?
I think that I would definitely encourage them to take the idea that it's a patient process, and that there are lots of little steps, but it's worthwhile doing them. But it's important that you get support, and that you get buy-in. And we were talking a few weeks ago about building your own community.
Correct.
Community of purpose. And so if you don't have a community yet, a community of support, that you do start thinking about who your community is. And these days they talk about that very on in trend word, your tribe. So
Yes,
who's your tribe? So find your tribe. and
correct.
and I think that for me that would be some of the first steps to kind of think about that. And then that it's not impossible. When you do take these little steps, it's a step towards your finding your purpose and enjoying your life.
Ah, wonderful. So, and now for the big question as we close is, do you think I should deliver chapter 2 when it's my turn again?
No, I agree with you. I think you definitely should do chapter 2. I think that you have caught my attention. And so, yeah, I will say continue with chapter 2. Thank you.
Thank you. It's on record. Yeah. So, Julia, thank you for also joining us, and for others listening to us on Clubhouse. Wonderful. Thank you for joining us. But even if you're listening to the playback on Clubhouse, please feel free to join us when we have these sessions every Monday at 5:30. But if you don't get to any of this, feel free to listen to the video on our YouTube channel, the Mufasa Coaching Practice. So, Shanaz, thank you very much. It's thank you for listening, always listening so well, effective listening, and with your final comments, and just in terms of what people can do quite practically in taking something out of the conversation today. So, have a fantastic week. May it be filled with all kinds of joyous interactions and every kind of measurement of success that makes you feel as if life is absolutely worthwhile.
Thank you, Jacques. And I'll find something to chat about next week. It's sparked my interest. So I will see you all, or yeah, hear you all and see you all next week. Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.